So what's up, everybody? I am super excited today. This is our second episode with me and Kyle, Pandaman, about success that leaves clues. And I'm excited about our guest today, a friend of mine who I've known for about the last year, Matt Porcaro. He runs an amazing business. He has an awesome story. We hear a lot about businesses, about living in the niche, and I've never met anybody who lives more in the niche than this man here. So I'm excited to unpack it. Appreciate you coming in from Long Island. And Kyle had a great time on that first episode, and I know a lot of people got a lot of things out of it. So really quick, before we kind of dive into this, I just want to see, what do you guys think about, did we walk on the moon?
Unequivocally no, in my opinion.
Unequivocally no. What about you, Matt?
It's the film footage. The film footage throws me off, man. It's weird. I was saying, like, you know how, like, HGTV, when they say, like, oh, we're going to flip your house, and the camera crew's already set up inside the house, and they open the door, and they're super surprised. It's like, how's the camera crew already there? So that was the only thing with me. Like, you would have asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't think so, but if you look at that camera footage, it's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially how many years ago?
Yeah.
70 years ago?
I never gave it much thought, but I was in Newport, Rhode Island this summer, and we were taking a tour, and they said that JFK spent his whole summers in Newport, and they built an Oval Office replica. So when he would address the media or the people, he would do it and literally be like in a suit with like swim trunks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if they staged that, why wouldn't they stage the moonwalk? You know?
Yeah.
There was a lot on the line back then.
Yeah. What made you take interest in it?
So I really wish I could tell you a big elaborate story. I was literally just at the bar with two of my friends, and they started talking about it. And
that's
it
how
was
it
just
starts.
They're like, Carl, what do you think? I'm like, I've never thought about it before, to be honest with you. And this was about 2 weeks ago. And then I just kind of, once you Google something, forget about it. And I started doing the deep dive, and I was like, this could be staged. And I've never thought of it before. So I did a post on
it was cool.
on Instagram about it, because it's just interesting. And I don't know what really happened. I don't think any of us know definitively, but it's just interesting to have that conversation.
Yes.
And what I found that funny about it is, there's people out there that just really try to change your mind. And for me, I just like having the conversation, the debate. Like, I love hearing other people's point, but also just don't shove it down my throat, right?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway with that and doing what we're doing here is just being open to having conversations with people, being open to everything. I think more than ever, right? We saw everything that's happening with the media in recent years and stuff, and censorship and everything. And it's just like, it's good to question everything. There's nothing wrong to question things and question a narrative. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you a conspiracy theorist. I think hopefully where people are starting to understand that just if there's a straight up narrative, or you're being told, like you said, someone's trying to convince you. With everything I did, I'd always be the one to take a step back and be like, is there an ulterior motive here? Yeah. It's good to question everything. You don't have to be a skeptic with everything, but it's good to question everything. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and talk about just a subject that gets people engaged.
Yeah.
Any type of that. I mean, the comments, I was reading the comments, and some of them were real funny, right? What
Yep.
people say. I know this must be a good post because I'm getting trolled. And if it wasn't a good post, I wouldn't be getting trolled.
Yeah.
So I just had fun with it, and it was just interesting. I was like, I got to bring it up. We talked a little bit about it.
We can do a whole other podcast on that.
Yeah, you can do a whole other podcast on that.
Another couple hours for that.
Yeah, but it's interesting just to think and just think
It
outside
is.
the
Gives you
box.
flexibility in your thoughts.
Yeah.
So Matt, what we try to focus on is a lot about entrepreneurship, building business, and also everyone celebrates the victories, but as building a business, there's a lot of lows, right? So tell everybody, listen, a little bit about your story, kind of what you do, and a little bit about that niche that you really have deep dived into.
Yeah, so I mean, it almost kind of goes with the whole moon landing contrarian thought. I think I've always been a contrarian with everything I do in life. Remember like Tekken and like remember the video games and stuff, and remember, like the old video games and stuff, and like everyone would pick Eddie Gordo, or everyone would pick like one guy who they always knew was the best, right? I'd be the guy that like would try to find like the most obscure character and like try to learn that obscure character and try to figure out a way to like make it work. And a lot of times it wouldn't work. But I've always been that guy. I've always been that one, like, if kids in the neighborhood, everyone got like one type of bike, like I would look for a different bike. I just always wanted to be the contrarian. And I think with real estate I ended up doing the same thing. And that was because I had no other option. I came from a working class family. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but, very blue collar. The word investing never came up in my house. My dad had his own, construction company, but never invested, kind of one man show, him and my mom. And when times were good, they were good, but when they were bad, they were bad. And when you're a young kid growing up in that environment, my parents didn't protect me from that, right? Like I knew when there was no money. I knew when, because like if there was no money, it was the root of all stress. It was like the root of like my parents would argue, they get into fights, things were weird, knocking on the door, shutting off electric, like you'd feel the stress. Right. My dad made it very apparent when money was coming in and when it wasn't. When you're 7 years old, man, like then you start to worship money, or you start to think of it as this thing that's like a driving factor. And then especially when your parents are constantly telling you like, hey, you're gonna go do something better. You're gonna be better than this. You're not gonna have these issues, because in their eyes, they're like, you're gonna go work for a company and get a steady paycheck. And so that's what I did. I tried to do what they thought was the right thing. And I wasn't a good student by any means. So come high school, when they start talking about colleges and everything, it was funny because they're like, oh, what do you want to do? And what do you expect? I was just like, what makes the most money? But what makes the most money in the shortest amount of time? Yeah. So they were like the engineering degrees. They were like four-year degree. You can get an engineering school, and in 4 years you'll be the highest. You'll be like one of the higher paid roles. And I was like, okay, which engineering is the highest paid engineering? Like I was like all in. Like I was just so focused on money. And again, it's like crazy to think back on that. And so that's what I did. I went to school. I got into a school by the skin of my teeth. Again, my grades weren't great. And if there's another characteristic of mine is that I just kind of have like a pig-headed determination, and like I don't quit, but it takes me a long time to figure stuff out. So like, and I always get by, but I always get it done and get through by the skin of my teeth. So went to school, went to college, got through literally by the skin of my teeth. Like I remember the graduating class was like half of the people that were supposed to be there, and I was probably at the bottom of that.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So like, it was like, I just was constantly getting through by the skin of my teeth. But like, again, I just always remember my parents telling me like, go work for a company and go get a consistent paycheck every week. And I did that. And like, I did all the things. And man, I remember probably not even being in the real work world for probably about, I don't know, like first month. And I was like, oh, this ain't it either. Like, this is not how people get rich. Like, what? I don't get it. But like, I don't think you get rich doing this either. Fast forward, I was working my job. And
what year are we talking about?
Talking like 2007, 2008. Yeah. So it got out, and like, as this is all going through, I'm working in New York City. I got a job in a construction company right out of school, making good money. Again, everything should be good. Like I should be liking, but I was just so unfulfilled, and I didn't like the idea of like having a question when I can take off and being judged on when I show up and when I leave and all that stuff. So I was walking to lunch one day, and in New York City, you got guys that sell books on the street, like used books. Like everyone's got to hustle in New York City. And I remember just seeing Rich Dad Poor Dad on the table, and I heard about it many times, and I'm just like, let me grab this book. And there was like all his other books right next to it. I was like, how much for all the books? And it was like $5. And that $5 changed my life, as it does for many people. And that book is so important. I know it was very big years ago. I think with the new generation, they don't know the importance of that book. But really, for a kid like me that grew up in an environment where investing was never brought up. Like to my parents thought that people get rich from working your way up a company and then like owning the company, becoming a vice president of the company. That's what they thought. But then you read that book and you realize that you get rich from investing and leveraging money yourself. And that was the beginning of everything for me, man. And that's when I decided to go down the real estate route.
Dude, that really resonates with me, because anytime I've been on a podcast or interview and people, what books change your life? I always say Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's everybody.
And when my wife and I started dating, I made her read it because I said, I want you to understand my mindset. Yeah. Going into this relationship, going into marriage, like, because if you're not good with this mindset, we're not going to make it. Yeah. Right? Because the expectations aren't going to be there. So that book really changed it. So you were working, you read that book. How did you then take that leap from working in New York City to building this brand and coaching company and consulting company?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I read the book, right? And I read the book, and he talks about trading time for money and W-2, and like rich people become rich through owning businesses and real estate and assets and everything like that. But being in New York and growing up on Long Island, which is, right outside, it was super expensive. It was just like, he talks so much about real estate. And even then, after reading that book, I was like, yeah, it's for rich old people. Like real estate, I can't buy I'm never going to buy a house, multiple houses, let alone one. I don't even know how I'm going to buy one house. Yeah. So but I was like, okay, a business, I could probably start a business. So like I did everything you could think of, man. And failed miserably at all of it. Like try to trade stocks. Like I remember there was one time I was like still working my 9-to-5 job, and this is like before Robinhood and all those apps and made it easy. And like I'd have like a little like trading thing on my and I'd have to hide it because like there was people watching me and stuff. So I had my little thing, and I like finally threw some big money in an account for me, like a couple $1,000, $2,000, like all my money, and I threw it in some options. And I was like trying to day trade, and then my boss calls me in for a meeting that ended up being 2.5 hours. I come back, the stock tanked. I lost all my money on the options. So like, dude, I was just trying to hustle, man. And like, no one understood it. My parents didn't understand it. I started learning about other things. And I listened to a podcast about this guy, and he was talking about how he got into real estate investing and how he got in with like no money. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can do that. And that opened me up to the idea of wholesaling, which, we know is like basically going and finding real estate deals for people and selling the deal off. It's like, oh, this is really cool. This is maybe my way in, because I wasn't going to be able to just buy a house outright or anything like that. So I tried that. Did that for a while. I couldn't cut it. The one thing they don't tell you is if you want to wholesale, you better have a lot of time or a lot of money, and in many cases both, and a lot of chops. And I was working a 9-to-5 job, commuting an hour and a half. It wasn't even 9 to 5; it was 7 to 4. So I had to be on the train at 4:30 in the morning, and I got home at 6:30 at night. So there wasn't really much time for me to like do the side business. But I tried. I did like the weekend stuff like that. Failed miserably at that, was reading more stuff. Can I like flip houses with no money? I had a background in construction. Then you go to somebody and you're like, hey, yeah, we want to partner with you on a deal. You have money. Yeah, I know construction. They're like, all right, what's the first question they ask? How many of these have you done?
Yeah.
I'm like, none. And I'm 23 years old. They're like, yeah, we're going to give you, all right, kid, we're going to give you 500 grand. Sure, no problem. Right. So it's like all these things that I'm learning from like these gurus and stuff online are telling me to do this. So long story short, man, the real estate thing was always in the back of my head, because I remember reading the book and it was like, real estate's the way. But I'm trying all these other things and I'm like still trying to crack it. So I go and I join this local real estate investment association, and it's this lady, Melissa, that runs it. She still runs it to this day. And I remember like going there and learning more about it and just like being like, man, this is all the stuff that I've been reading. And like, this is all the stuff I've been exposed to. And I pulled her to the side one day and I was like, hey, Melissa, like, listen, I'm 20 whatever years old, in my mid 20s. Like, I got a couple grand in the bank. Like, I don't have a ton of money. Like, if you could go back and do this all over again, what would you do? Like, how do I crack this? Like, I'm trying here. And she's like, listen, she's like, if I could do it all over again, she's very successful, has tons of properties, mom of like 7 kids, just an all-star. So I took what she said to heart, and she kind of was like, she's kind of like a little like, she's like, listen, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would use something called an FHA 203K loan to buy my first house. And I was like, it's been 4 years really at this point of me trying to find out about real estate and try all these different strategies. First time I ever heard about it. Yeah. I'm like, what is this? Why am I just now here? I'm like, okay, what is it? What is it? She's like, well, it's a federally backed program. It's an FHA loan, and it's an owner occupant loan. So it's for buyers that buy their house, or you have to occupy the property. It's for a home buyer, but you don't own a house yet. I was like, no. She's like, it allows you to purchase the house and wrap all the renovation costs as well to buy the house. So you could buy a fixer-upper. In New York and Long Island, like basements were really popular. She's like, buy the house, use all the money to renovate it, use all the money to fix it up, live in the basement, rent out the upstairs to a family or something, and you get your mortgage paid for. And I was like, okay, that's great. And then I was like, but I don't have 20% down. She's like, well, this, you only need 3.5. I'm like, what? 3.5, that's all I need? So in my market, it was like, for a $300,000 property, it was like $12,000. I had that.
It was a real light bulb moment.
It was a huge light bulb moment. But here's the thing. The caveat to that was it was a huge light bulb moment. I'm like so juiced up. I'm like, this is the answer to all my problems. Again, it was by necessity. This was the only thing that actually like lit me up. the other stuff always felt weird to me. Like the wholesaling thing always felt a little weird to me. The trying to raise capital from people that try to get all their hard-earned money when I had no experience myself always felt weird for me, even though the gurus were telling me, don't worry about it, do it. So I went home and I Google it, and there's nothing. Like, it just doesn't come up. And I'm like, what the fuck is this thing, man? Like, why is it so mysterious? But it sat in the back of my head, man. And like, because I think it was the only thing that existed, I went all in on it. And to the contrarian point, I was all in on that because it was something that I could just figure out and make my own.
Well, what I love about that is like you still had your full-time job.
Yeah.
Right? You tried a lot of different things and it didn't fail. And it failed.
Yeah.
And what I see is a lot of people might have one setback and it stops them from moving forward on something else because they think about that. So I love the fact that you didn't let a failure stop you from going on to the next thing, to finding the right thing. And sometimes you just got to walk that path and that journey to get there. So you have this light bulb moment. You're like, wow, this product's awesome. I'm really familiar with the product, and it's an amazing product for home buyers, not just first-time home buyers in general. So you got that light bulb moment. You start. Did you go out and then buy a house using it?
Yeah. So that's what happened. So really, it planted a seed. And to be honest, I went home, I Googled it, and I didn't find much information on it. And I kind of just was like, all right, whatever. And I kind of wouldn't say forgot about it, but like I kind of just went back to the drawing board a little bit. I was doing some other like side hustles and stuff in the fitness world, and like I was working as a coach, and I was doing some marketing for these guys, and like I was just kind of like focusing on what I knew. But I started like really, I had like 10 grand in my bank account, which was like the most I ever had in my entire life. And so I'm like, and I thought back to that conversation. I was like, you know what, Melissa, like, let me look into this 203K thing a little more, like a little bit more. So I called the only loan officer I knew, which was a family friend, my cousin's best friend when they grew up. He's the only loan officer I knew. I call him up, and his name is EJ, and he's like a fast talking New York guy. And he's like, I was like, hey man, like, do you know about this 203K? He's like, dude, yeah, man, like that's gonna be perfect for you. Let's get you set up. That's actually perfect for what you're trying to do. Like, yeah, we're gonna get you set up. And he's like, send me this. I'm like, okay. And like, I mean, that was on my way home from Starbucks. Later that day, he got me, ran my credit, ran the pre-approval, everything like that. And I thank EJ so much because I always was an analysis paralysis guy too, because I tried a lot of things, but I'd overthink everything. I still do to this day. Like I'm an engineer in mind. So like, I have to overanalyze everything. So I think if it wasn't for EJ and like for him having trust in someone else to like put it on him, like I didn't know about the 203K, but in my head, he did, and he's the expert. So I did. Fast forward, we learned he didn't really know how to do it either. And nobody in his branch did. That's a whole other like story, but he did get me the pre-approval, and that was the first step. And like action begets action, right? The obstacle is the way. And that's like the biggest thing that I live by is like to the point of like what you were saying is like you keep failing, but to me it was like it was just there was no other like I wasn't going backwards, so I had to just keep failing forward. So with this, it was like a step in the right direction, and it was almost nice to, the cool thing about it for someone like that's an analysis paralysis junkie like myself was that because there was no information on it, it forced me to learn as I went. And that was something that was big for me of like, I couldn't read books about it. I couldn't go overanalyze or watch YouTube videos about it and go down a rabbit hole and trying to figure it out. Yeah. I just like was like, okay, I got to figure this out as I go. So I leaned on him a lot. I started placing a ton of offers. Albeit, I realized too, like even with this loan, everything like that, I still couldn't afford shit on Long Island. Like it was still not enough. Like I was making maybe $70,000 a year. I was only pre-approved for maybe like $290,000, which like, you know, even in 2016 was like not a lot of money on Long Island. So I'm offering on stuff. Agents are laughing at me. They're like, yeah, right. And like, blah, blah, blah. You'll never find anything. Just hearing everything you could think of. But again, just the pig-headed determination. I just kept offering and offering and offering. And I was getting rejection. But again, this is by necessity. Like I didn't have another option. Like either this worked or nothing worked. So I just kept going. Sure enough, it led me to this property, and it was a literal crack house. It was a foreclosure listed. And I didn't even know I could offer on foreclosures, but the 203K, this product allows you to buy any property in any condition, right? Because it's subject to you renovating it. So what ended up happening was I looked at the property, and it was like, it was about $280,000, which was my limit. but I knew that I was like, but I need to have the money to renovate it too, right? And that's when EJ told me about the cool benefit. One of the cool benefits of it is that it allows you to buy up to a 4-unit property. This was a legal 2-family. That's what it had. So I learned about kind of the house hacking concept, because what's really cool about this loan is with the other units in a property that produce income, they'll forecast that future income onto your pre-approval. So basically what it is really, like these days, for every $1,500 in rent that you get from a property, it increases your approval $100,000. It increases your buying power. So I went from not being able to qualify for it to just having enough to be able to wrap in $80,000 of renovation costs. So I placed an offer on it, and we got the thing locked up. I wrapped in all the closing costs. I actually got a check back at closing, and we got it under contract. It was, nobody wanted to touch it. It was nasty as all hell. I mean, there was literally shit on the walls. Like, there was squatters in there. It was bad, but it was the only thing I could afford. And I knew, kind of from all my studying of real estate, I was like, if I renovate this, it'll probably be worth like somewhere in the 4s when I'm done. So I was like, this is gonna be a good deal. I just don't know how this is gonna pencil out. So I got into it, got under contract, and then realized that EJ had no idea how to do this loan. Neither did anybody else at their brokerage. And that closing was rough. Yeah. It took a long time to close this thing, a lot of back and forth, a lot of trials and tribulations. But when all was said and done, I had to put up $9,500 was the only thing that came out of my pocket. They wrapped in closing costs. And we closed on the property at $270. I wrapped $80,000 and completely renovated the house. Was done, renovation took better part of 8 months. You know, you don't have to live there while you're renovating. You can actually wrap the mortgage payments in. So while you're renovating, you don't have to pay out of pocket for the mortgage. So I was able to wrap the mortgage payments in. Didn't pay, got done, reappraised the property. It reappraised for $480,000. So I was all in for $9,500 out of my pocket. Yeah. The price, the purchase plus the renovation was $350,000, which was all the bank's money. They built $130,000 in equity in just like 6 to 8 months. And then I moved into the one unit, rented out the other unit, and that other unit I was getting about $2,200 a month. Excuse me. And I think the mortgage was about $2,800, $2,900 a month. So I was basically living for free. I was throwing a couple $100 a month out of pocket, and it all started there. And that was the huge moment when I realized, like, it gave me the money I needed to go buy more deals. It gave me the experience I needed because I had now just found a good deal, renovated it, learned a lot through the process, and then it gave me the confidence really to go and do more. And I basically realized as I did this was that why the hell do more people not know about this? I remember finishing the project, getting the final inspection on it, and just sitting in the middle of the room and like smelling the new paint on the walls, smelling the floors, and just like looking around being like, why the fuck do more people not know about this? Why did it take me 4 years to find this out? And that kind of pushed me on this whole thing of like just wanting to let more people know. And I helped some friends, I helped some family members. I saw what it did for them. I started helping strangers with it, seeing the same success over and over and over again. And then I was like, hey, maybe I'm onto something here. And now years later, it's a whole big community. I've helped hundreds of people do it, and I just want to help thousands more do it.
Kyle, you know what I love about this? When someone's passionate about a subject and they talk about it, they can't hide it, right? You can't fake it, like that passion. When you talk about fasting, you're so passionate about it and you love it so much, you know it's not, and just listen to Matt talk about a mortgage product, but with such passion, I've been in the real estate.
Not as a loan officer.
Right.
Like,
Right, not as a loan officer, not as a realtor, and to hear the passion because how it changed your life. And I think that's why, we'll talk about this a little bit more, your coaching company is really taking off because, and same thing with you, Kyle, I mean, you just talk with such passion about fasting, you just talk with such passion, you're passionate about what you do, you're gonna be successful, right? No matter what it is.
Yeah. Now, were you married at the time when you did the first one?
So great question. My goal was to buy my first house before I got married. Okay. And it was for no other reason than I knew I could fail without hurting someone else, hurting my wife financially or something like that. I didn't want her, because me and my wife are high school sweethearts. We've been together. We were together from when we were 17. So my wife was there for all of this, but we weren't married yet. We had just gotten engaged when I bought my house. So we got engaged. I bought the house. I renovated it. I was briefly there. The whole thing is like, it's not a flipping loan. It's not meant to like do over and over and over again. It's really just a powerful thing to get your foot in the door and really, really give you an amazing boost, an amazing jump start. So I did the first, lived in it briefly. We had just gotten engaged. I moved in with my now wife, and we had this first asset that like I knew that we had that was just going to build money over time. I still have it. It's got like $300,000, $400,000 of equity. I still get $2,000 a month from that little property that I put $9,500 down on. And that led it into more. But yeah, it's a great question because that was always my goal, because I wanted to have the flexibility to get that first one and get it done. And that's what I did. And then I went into more into the flipping side of things.
Now, with that too, you mentioned being pig-headed and the resilience I was picking up on. Were you an athlete growing up?
Yeah.
What did you play?
Football, wrestling, baseball. Yeah.
And did you feel like that you learned a lot from that, being an athlete as far as being resilient and hitting these obstacles?
Yeah, I actually had a bad relationship with my high school football coach. I'm not good with authority. Again, the whole contrarian.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that he always resonated with, one thing that he said, and it was like, if you quit at this, you're gonna go quit at your job. You're gonna go quit when your relationship sucks. You're gonna go quit. Quitting becomes easier and easier and easier. And it's like when you hit adversity, if you quit, you're gonna keep quitting. And quitting is going to get easier and easier and easier. That always resonated with me. Of like, you're not always the deck's. Oh, and as I get older now with kids and everything like that, you realize like there's no perfect timing for anything, right? But I was proud of myself to stick with it because, dude, the shit I dealt with on my first one, like a lot of people would have quit. But it just forces you to you don't have any other option. My dad even through the project was like, I don't know what to do. Tell you, I don't know what to do. And he's like, he's a general contractor, and there's a lot of construction stuff that was in it, and we were dealing with some issues with permits, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, I got to figure it out. It's not like this isn't the time to quit. I was so in deep. I was like, all my money was into this. I was like, I don't have an option. So it's just in the face of adversity, man. And it's funny you say that too, because I get to coach a lot of people now, and being coachable is so important. It's everything you do in your life. And I hate when people say I don't need a coach or whatever. It's Olympians have coaches, right? The whole idea of you always need that accountability. There's always someone that knows more than you. I think there's some bad people out there that gave coaching and stuff like that a bad name, but man, if someone's just one or two steps ahead of you, the stuff that they could teach you and bring to you is so important. But being coachable and being humble enough, that's the other thing. I think a lot of people just think they know it all and think they can do everything themselves. I mean, I think wisdom and aging is also knowing that you can't do everything yourself, and that it takes a village to do everything in life. Raising kids, your health, your business, whatever it is, nothing's a one-man show, a one-woman show. So one of the cool things I've seen is I've helped a lot of people through this, but the athletes, especially the college athletes that I've helped, crush this.
Yeah.
Because they're coachable and they just get it and they trust the process. They don't need the immediate gratification. They don't need the instant gratification. Athletes know that they need to go and to get better at something, that they're not going to get better at it. Everyone now, I tell people, people are like, oh, I can't find, no one will accept deals like this in this market. I'm like, okay, how many offers have you made? None. The answer is always none. You don't tell me you can't find deals. You've never even tried. It's like saying you can't play golf, but never taking your clubs out. It's just crazy to me. But athletes tend to have that grit of just knowing that stuff isn't going to come, and they're the first to identify that and go after it.
Now, you were still working as an engineer at the time of the first closing?
Yeah, this was all up until very recently, actually. When we quit corporate about a year ago.
Oh, okay. So you're doing that, and then you started helping friends and even strangers, you said. Mm-hmm. Talk about the transition to when you were like, I can charge for this. Like, and who was the first person that you said, no,
that was an interesting thing because I never thought that's again nothing I thought I would do. So there's like an online community, Bigger Pockets. It's a big online real estate investing community. And as I was going through my process, I was asking a lot of questions on it, and a lot of people really didn't know. There's like maybe one guy that helped me, did one in California, and he was really cool, and I appreciated him for that. And I would just answer. So once I did mine, the questions would come up because it was very similar to like my whole scenario. Like people would find out about it but get no information on it. So people were constantly asking questions about it. So I was constantly answering questions about it. And just organically, I would get DMs from people asking the same questions over and over and over and over and over again. So fast forward a little bit, I'm like sitting with my wife in our apartment in the city one night. And I keep getting asked all these questions about this 203K thing. Like, do you think if I just like created an Instagram account and like started posting about it that people would read it? And she's like, no, but do it anyway. Excuse me. So I did, and I just started like making posts, and all I did was just post everything that I wish I knew when I went through the process. And I didn't, it's like such a niche thing, right? It is so niche that in the beginning, like it had no traction. But again, there was a little bit of it, and there was a couple of these people on Bigger Pockets that were like reaching out, and they're like, I follow you, and this has been really helpful. So I just kept doing it. It was cool to see other people doing it. And then there was a turning point where I had a couple people that were like, I had this one kid, this kid Shannon, and he was young, he lived in Staten Island, worked a teacher assistant job, making like nothing. And he's like, I heard about this. I want to buy a multifamily property. I want to do this. I want to buy I want to get started, buy a house, buy a multi-unit, become a landlord, start investing in real estate. And I was like, cool, man. And he's like, so what do you want? He's like, hey, can I just pay you to teach me how to do this? And I was like, yeah, I guess. And I was like, I was like, I don't know. He's like, how much? And I just like named the price. And he was like,
what did you tell him?
I was like $2,500. And he was like, okay, let's go. And I don't even think I knew how to take payment then. Like, I think I was like PayPal or like Zelle or I don't know what the fuck it was. But I did it with him and he crushed it. And I'm like, okay, this kid bought $5,000 down. He ended up moving. He was so dedicated, and college athlete, lacrosse player, high level lacrosse player, played in college, was so dedicated to doing this that he looked for a deal in Jersey. One fell out of contract in Jersey. He ended up saying like, I'm just going to pick up. He met a girl. He moved completely out west to New Mexico. He was so dedicated to it, found New Mexico as a market, found a quadplex in New Mexico, put $5,000 down on it, lived there for free, did a little bit of renovation on it, built $200,000 of equity off of $5,000, lived there for free, plus was making $1,000 a month cash flow while he lived there. He now invests full-time. He's a full-time wholesaler out there. Works for a great dude who I know out there. He's crushing it. He retired from his teaching job at 27.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's like the first guy I ever did this with. So it's really cool. Shannon's the man. And so that was the first one. I'm like, okay. And then more people started asking me, and then I was like, okay, well, I got to make this a thing because so I started again getting coached. I was like, I wanted to learn from other coaches how to be a good coach. And what I did was basically I crafted because I had my own coaches, and I basically wanted to learn what I got best out of from some people, and I made my own thing, a culmination of all other things, a culmination of helping multiple people do it, and it just kind of organically just turned into something. Seeing people that had a need with it. My biggest thing was that I took the Gary Vee approach, where he just says give, and it'll come back to you, and that's what I did. I literally would just create content, start to finish, on how to do this thing, tactical, poignant content, YouTube videos, the whole nine, just step by step. I gave it all away. There's no secrets. Tell people you could work with me or not. The information's out there. All it's gonna do is the difference between going online for a fitness regimen and finding a fitness regimen on bodybuilding.com that you could download for free versus hiring a personal trainer and working with them for a year. You know what I mean? If you want that attention, you want that accountability, you want that, yeah, I'll give you my time and we're going to make sure that you crush it. But then I have a guy just last week. I had a meetup locally in Long Island where I'm at, and he came out to the meetup, and it was him and his wife, and he's like, hey man, me and my wife followed everything you said. I just followed all your Instagram posts, and we built $200,000 of equity on our house that we live in. We're renovating it now, and like I just did everything you told us to do. So it's like, it's cool. Like I have both ends. Like I don't need to, it's cool. I'm happy to help people. I'm happy to coach people through it. But I think the biggest thing was that like I put all the information out there. And like if people want to work with me, people come to me. They're like, hey Matt, I get it. I want to do it. It looks awesome. I know this is going to help me, but I just want to make sure I do it right and do it right the first time. So that's what, I started doing that, and it's been really rewarding, really fun. And it's a very different niche in the sense that like it's helping people get into investing, but it's also like helping people buy their first home. And like really in a market right now where it's just so hard. I mean, first time home buyers, even people that are looking to buy another house, they bought a starter home and they're outgrowing it and they're looking to do the next one, but they're also looking to make a good financial decision.
So you're literally changing people's lives.
Yeah, I will say yes. I had a hard time believing that at first. There was a cool mastermind I was in, or it still am, and they asked someone at the stage, and there's other people that coach real estate and a bunch of other things. Sorry, I need water when someone can get a chance. But anyway, like thank you. So it was cool because they were up on stage, and you have a bunch of other people that are coaching, and like business coaches and everything like that. And they were like, raise your hand if you've created a millionaire or multiple millionaires. And like what they mean by that is not created, but like you coached people into that. And I'd never thought of that. But like, I'm like, I could name 5 off the top of my head. I'm like, shit. And I got to raise my hand. And that was the coolest thing ever. Dude, it's fun to flip houses. It's fun to invest in real estate. The more rewarding thing, people are like, why do you do it? Or people are like, oh, you do it to make money. Like you're just teaching, like everyone, coaches get a bunch of bullshit now. Like, oh, you're a guru, you sell scams. It's like, okay, dude, if you knew how much work I put way more work into anybody that like people think I'm crazy for the amount of money, the amount of time I put into my people I work with and people in my community. But there is nothing cooler. It's cool to flip a house, it's cool to like see what it does for you, but it's way cooler to see how it affects someone else's life, their trajectory, their kids, their family. This guy Tim, he was on a group call. He just comes and hangs out just for the fun of it. He's like, yeah, my first down payment, he bought a property up in New York. He put $30,000 down on $1 million property. It's worth 1.5 now. He went and bought a couple other properties. He's sitting on $3.6 million of equity right now.
That's incredible.
In 5 years, he was a fireman in New York City. He quit his job. So it's just a cool. Coaching's really rewarding. Like I tell people too, like don't get into coaching for money. Like that's not what it's about. It's not. I'm not in it for money, dude. If it was for money, I would have quit a long time ago. Because it's a lot. You're taking a lot of ownership on people, on their success. Like think about if you're a coach for an Olympian or something like that. If you're an Olympian fail, like you take that to heart. Like everyone, like I don't want to see anybody fail that's under my wing and like under my, I'll take, even though they'll tell me it's not my fault or I did something, it's like I wear it. I care so much. Like there's no amount of money that you want to deal with that and like have to worry about. Like if someone invested their time and effort with me and then something went wrong, I'd like to say we have a very good track record, which is awesome. But like if I didn't, it would kill me,
Now with that too, Matt, so you got multiple streams of revenue coming in from this 2 or 3K business.
Yeah.
With marketing, are you doing any marketing towards getting coaching clients, or is it they're just seeking you out?
So, great question. And I think it's just good to be transparent with this because people are always curious about this type of industry. It's a two-way street. You have to start first. We were talking about social media before we started this and just the importance of it. You have to give first. You have to give first, and you have to attract people. Because if you go out chasing it when you don't have track records or anything like that, like I think it's asinine and crazy to try to charge people an arm and a leg when like you don't have a lot of results first. Like again, I did this myself multiple times. I helped multiple friends, family. I was doing like some beta testing of it. I'm trying to figure it out too. How can I be the best for them and set them up for wins? So you do that initially and you attract it in. But the reality also is that it does become a business, and it does become like people don't realize like there's a lot that goes into the content creation and the emails and the software and the social media, and I mean the the accounting that once you start bringing in revenue in any business, it becomes a business, and talk about exit strategies and like how do you create an actual business. You have to have operations, you have to have processes, you have to put the right people in place. So once that starts to happen, you do also need to let people know that you're in business. And that was, I'll be honest, that's one of the things that I've kind of struggled with, is that I probably don't promote myself to a fault, but then I realized too that, and one of my mentors told me this, that like you're bigger, your vision's bigger than you, right? Like the vision to help more people get into real estate, set themselves up financially, get out of the rat race, have another stream of income that can help them out, that can produce other streams of income, just give them a stability in a really scary environment, economically. That's bigger than me. The money I make, that's bigger, right? So in order to make that impact, you have to push, you have to market, you have to get out there. So I'd say in the last year, like 6 months to a year, I've been a little more like letting people know I do it, right? I still don't do like a really paid marketing. It's still all organic. Like everything's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I'm doing a little bit of paid just to get the reach out there a little bit, but it's an interesting thing because you want to attract people. You don't want to force people, because I always tell people, like, I'm not here to convince you that this is the right thing for you. If you want me to try to sell you on this, like I tell people all the time, you either have the belief that you can do it or you don't. If you don't have the belief, there's nothing I can do to prove it to you, or like you either need to have it or not have it. If you come to me, you better know that you can do it. So it's been an interesting kind of figuring out for myself on like what's that happy medium between attracting, but then also letting people know that you're in business and you do offer it.
Yeah.
And I think what you've done in Masters, you're just knowing you for the last year and following you, you're just very authentic. I think it comes through big time on your social media that you really want to help people be able to do this, and and in return you have a business and a life that you have to have.
Yeah.
So I think you do a great job of just being like really authentic. What point did you realize it was starting to take off?
So to back up a little bit, right? I started doing this thing of like the 203K way, which I call it the 203K way because the 203K is the way I got into real estate investing. The 203K was my vehicle. It was my way in. So what ended up happening was I started making content and stuff, and I was trying to find, like, people were offering, people asked me, do you have a course? Do you have this? And I was like trying to finagle my way around that. But remember, I was working a 9-to-5 job in the city. I was, I had that whole thing. I had my rental properties. I was still flipping like a house or two a year. And I was like I still thought I was going to be like a flipper. So then 2020 happened, little thing happened in the world, and I was working in New York City for Disney, for a big company, and they just shut everything down and shut everybody out. And like I was in New York City, so we literally couldn't do anything. We couldn't leave the house, like literally. So my flipping business, I had 2 deals. We were talking about this last night. I'm sorry, guys. I have something in my throat, so I'm sorry to keep coughing. But I had 2 deals under contract March 10th of 2020. And they were good deals. And I could not get anybody to finance them. There were going to be 2 great flips. Could not get a person on the planet to give me the financing on them. Everyone backed out. And that was just enough time. I tried, and the banks gave me like 3 weeks. I couldn't find anybody because that was the 3 weeks where literally everything was shut down. So those 2 fell out. I depended on foreclosure deals, which went completely bust during the pandemic because no courts were open, nothing was open, so foreclosures didn't exist. I didn't go off market to find deals. I pretty much found on market, like REOs, they're called, like real estate owned. So I had nothing to do. I was like, I was working from home, which there wasn't much to do working from home, a lot of more time. So I just started creating a lot more content about this thing. And there was just the good thing I think that came out of that. There's a couple good things. I'd say more bad than good, but a couple good things that came out of it that I think a lot of people refocused in on. Number one, the fragility of having a single income. Working for a company overnight, you could have everything could be going good for you, and you overnight lose your job. Then what? You couldn't work. People in the industry, service industry, couldn't work. Gyms just closed, out of business. Overnight, you don't have anything. So I think the cool thing about that is people looked online to really find different ways that they can help themselves, and it really kind of took off then. And I was just making a lot of content because that's all I was able to do, really. And then even in the midst of the pandemic, when everything was crazy, this really started to help people because people were able to find these properties and it was really high competition, but they were able to kind of get in on these fixer-upper properties that retail buyers weren't buying. We got a couple more other people that were coming into my program and going through the process, and they were killing it too. So that was the year where thankfully I had a lot of time. I don't know if that didn't happen. I don't know if it would have happened because it gave me the time to focus on the content, and that was ultimately where it took off.
No, with the content too, as far as you got a niche product, but then also you mentioned the college athletes, former college athletes. How much are you niching the message? Are you doing that? Are you? Is a lot of the content made for the former college athletes?
No, it's not. So it's funny because they always say the riches are in the niches, right? And it's like in the fitness world, it's it's not that you help people get fit. It's I help Disney entrepreneurs that are dads, get fit, with just doing some a couple times a week, right? I'm so niche because the 203K, nobody knows about it. People can't even pronounce that 401K, 302K, It's like a bad brand in the sense of it's not remember. A lot of people, they know it's something, but they don't really remember it. So I niched it down. I realized that the people that appealed to me most were the 9-to-5 workers that had a good job but just were unfulfilled and just knew that there was something more. And knew, again, with the pandemic, just knew that it's so fragile and they're just a number, and any minute they could just be let go. And didn't have a house yet, but wanted to make a good financial decision on their house. Because also during the pandemic, you had a ton of people that were just paying fucking $100,000 over asking for houses. And they were saying it in lieu of low rates, but you're low rate, but you're underwater on your mortgage day one. Now you have a lot of people that got into starter homes and they want to get out, but they can't because they don't want to let go of that 2% mortgage. So you had a lot of people that were also, again, contrarian of listen, I want to buy real estate, but I don't want to do it the wrong way. I want to make a good financial decision. I appeal a lot to the house hacking community. So one of the cool benefits of this loan is that you could buy up to a 4-unit property. Actually now too, you can buy a property that's not even set up as a legal multifamily, but just has an accessory unit of some kind, right? Like a mother-in-law suite, if you've ever heard of something like that, or just an accessory unit. ADUs are big now, accessory dwelling units. So it's people just want to buy a house and then rent out a portion of it for some income to subsidize their mortgage payment. It's just people that just want to make a good financial decision. So I appeal to that house hacking community. House hacking is the concept, again, of buying a house, living in part of it, and renting out portions of it to other people. But mostly they want to be house hackers because a lot of people that want to be house hackers want to get into real estate investing long term. It's kind of the thing where you can become a landlord, out of the gate, learn how to get income from passive income from a property. So I've been focusing on that. I've been focusing on those people, your 9-to-5 workers, that first-time home buyers that are looking to increase their income, but buy their house in a creatively intelligent way financially.
And I think what's important with this is a lot of people think it's just for first-time home buyers.
No, yeah.
I'm a real estate investor. We have a lot of properties, but I personally, on my last house, did a 203K because I wanted to save the liquidity that I had. And for the rates, it was just cheaper to roll it into a 30-year mortgage payment than get a separate loan for it or anything else. So really, too, a lot of people have a stigma that it's just for first-time home buyers, and it's really not. So you've had a tremendous amount of success with this and going deep in a niche. Tell us about like a real tough time you hit during this, you know, something that you thought was a big roadblock that you had to overcome or you're still overcoming.
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm always up against is the fact that it is such a niche. It's the blessing and a curse at the same time. Because people don't know it exists, right? Like Airbnb, people know what Airbnb is, right? So you have like guys that coach Airbnb and stuff like that and talk about Airbnb, and like people can understand like Airbnb, the concept, right? People can understand flipping houses. They see it on TV. They can understand real estate investing, buying a rental property. They don't, this is like such a unique thing. And I tell people like, they're like, well, promote to people that want to buy fixer-uppers. It's like, yeah, but there's more to it. There's the house hacking concept. There's so many levels to it. So what I'm up against constantly is communicating it in a way where more people, because dude, if I had $1 for every time someone said, I wish I knew about this when I bought my house. Yeah. If I only knew about this, how come I've never heard about this? Dude, I've heard that I'd be a millionaire. I hear it constantly, daily at this point. People that I talk to, I tell about, like my parents' friends, anybody. They're just like, why didn't I hear about this? And that's what I'm up against, of just like the letting more people know it exists. It's available to everybody. It's a federal program. Here's the crazy thing, right? I get people, I say all the time, it is the best real estate financing product on the planet for your average Joe, for just a regular person that has access to. Yeah, there's other finance. Yeah, if you're BlackRock, you know, rules don't apply to you. But like for the average Joe, it is the most powerful form of leverage on the planet. They give you all this financing, all this leverage. It's all backed by the government. Only have to put 3.5% down, right? And I say it's in the world because I get people that reach out to me from like, I had a guy from Norway, like schedule a call with me. I didn't know if like, he's an expat or something like that. I said a Norway call, like we had a call scheduled. He's like, yeah, I want to know how to do this in Norway. I'm like, it doesn't exist, man. It's a federal program. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe they have something like that. He's like, no, they don't have anything like that here, man. He's like, America has the best. He's like, I do some research. I see a lot of stuff online and I'm always just so pissed off. I had a guy in Australia, a guy in the UK. I had people reach out that find me, and it's a federal program. It's a U.S. program. Every U.S. territory, actually, too. Like you do Puerto Rico, Guam, like you name it. But it's crazy because people don't realize the opportunity you have here. Like the residential real estate market in the United States is by far, in my opinion, the most stable asset class in the world. Why does everybody invest here? Why is China and India and all these other countries, people investing all in this market? Why is BlackRock buying it up like crazy? Because it is the most stable market. Because the American dream, for what it's worth, is a very stable thing. You have people that have their livelihoods, their family, like nothing's gonna be more important to people than their family and the house they live in. That's it. So they because of that, we have these great programs because they know that the fabric of a country and the fabric of a society is dependent on people owning a part of it, having a place to live, contributing to their community. So I think it just all comes down to the fact of just letting more people know about it, because a lot of people, they're living in this country, they have this program that there's a lot of people that work hard to, you know, in the background to make these programs, you know, easier for people to use and more beneficial than ever to use. And we're always up against the reality, and we talk about this all the time, but that the agents don't talk about it and the lenders don't talk about it. And it's because of the fact that it is an extra step. You know, there are, you know, again, you're getting a contractor involved. You're getting additional financing. It's going to take a little longer to close. If you do it my way, it won't. But to the average person that doesn't know this thing that well, they look at it as like another roadblock. So the people are the gatekeepers of this, which are the lenders and the agents. If they don't know about it, your average population is not going to know about it. And I'm just one guy. I have my social media, I have a big following, but I'm just one guy. I need more agents to know about it, more lenders to know about it, because they don't realize how many more people they're going to be helping with it.
Talk to Matt about like the social media strategy.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific strategy you use as far as how you're putting the content out, who you're targeting, what are you doing for your stories, stuff like that?
So it's funny because Carl kind of nailed it. He said the thing you do really well is you're authentic. And I appreciate that because I do try to go for that. And it's a double-edged sword because I try to be super authentic with it. And I'll be honest, like I don't have the best plan. I kind of shoot from the hip with my content. Just because I'm always testing and trying to see what works because it always changes. I mean, the only thing that I found, I've been on Instagram, I grow my community on Instagram, you know, I'd say completely organically, never paid for a follower, never did any of that shit. You know, this was all organic. And I've been doing it for better part of like, you know, 8 years. And it's, the thing is, it always goes back to authenticity, right? Like, it always comes back to like, people used to come to me because I had a lot of people because they'd see me on Instagram for a while and they're like, who's making your videos? I'm like, me. I'm like, who? Well, I have a guy, he said he'll make me 10 reels or whatever a month and this thing and the other thing. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But you know what? I had guys that would pay for it and just no offense to them. I'm like, what? I don't know, maybe it's different for other people. I'd like get a guy to do it and like we'd make the really nice looking ones and everything, like it's great, and that would do shit. And then the one that I did one recently, I was walking to my car, just walking to my car, boom, put a headline, it was like about 401ks and versus 203ks. Walking to my car, filming it, it has like 800,000 views. And I got a ton of people. I actually did very well off that. It helped them align. It helped the lending side of things. It helped my coaching side of things. From one post, I made walking to my car. So the authenticity is huge. I think it's just talking about whatever you care about, knowing also that 99% of what you put out is going to flop. It's just, that's the way the algorithm works. Like, you're never going to, anybody out there, their hit after hit after hit after hit is not actually a real thing. And if it is, and if you do see people doing that, they have very new accounts. People that have longer accounts, like that have been around for a while, the way it works is the more, not to get too deep in this, but like the more followers you have, over time, they'll become less and less engaged, but you still have them as a follower, but they rank it based on your follower and your viewership. So I love the people that come into it. They're like, I grew my account to 50,000 followers in 8 months. I'm like, yeah, talk to me in 8 years. Because number one, you probably won't even be here. Number two, it doesn't, like, you will fall off. And it's not a bad thing because the whole idea is like, it's staying power, right? I always say it with like musicians, right? Look at the musicians that stay long, but look at the ones that are a flash pan, right? They come in, they have big, but then they fall off just as quickly as they come on. But then look at the Rolling Stones. Like, they're always going to have a huge following. You know what I mean? Like, because they built that over a long period of time. Yeah, with social media, it's a long game. You have to look at it as you're depositing $10 a day in an investment account. And like in the first year, it's not going to look like, again, you get these flash pan stuff, but I'd be weary of that. If you get a ton of followers really quick, that's not usually a good thing. So my thing is, so posting consistently, just being authentic, whatever comes to my mind. And, you know, with the stories are where people want to learn about you as who you are. Your posts are things that are informational. Like, I sprinkle in, I didn't like doing this, but I just realized there's a ton of value in like posting like dumb shit, memes, moon landing, whatever, you name it. That 401k one went crazy because you have all these financial gurus that try to tell me that I don't know what I'm doing. It's fine. But like, that'll get people going. That's what so you have to have a little combination of everything. You definitely have to be controversial. You have to be on Instagram. But the stories are the place where when you earn that follower, stories are actually the most viewed. People don't know this. Your stories are your most viewed content across the board. If you look at your story views, they're by far and large usually the highest. And that's where that's like the reality show. People want to see you go to, like, I post the gym. I post going on, like yesterday, my kid had his Thanksgiving little play where they sang, like, post a picture of him. Like, people want to know you're a real person too. Mm-hmm.
Did you call the moon landing post dumb? I think
I did not call it dumb. I said it's a controversial topic.
I think I just heard that say it was called dumb. No, it's great advice for people who want to try to build a following because it's not easy. You know, sitting at this table, between all of us, we have about 250,000 followers. You guys just happen to have 248,000 of them. But so any advice you could take, I'd love to get because it's not easy trying to build that following and building that brand. And I think most people listening to this and most entrepreneurs, they want to build that brand on social.
Yeah. It's so important, but I think it's. I love the fact that you brought up the branding because when I was building this, I didn't really know what it was going to be. What the fringe benefits of building a big social following way surpass whatever. If you like as a real estate agent, right? So let's just say you're a real estate agent and you want to build social media because I'm going to get listings from this, right? That's yes. On the front end, that's important, and that's like really why you do it. But when you actually really truly build a brand and people start to know who you are and really what you stand for and everything like that, and the connections you make from that, that becomes your new business card. That becomes your new, really, it's expanding your network way bigger than you would ever done on your own. And like the fringe benefits of social is you should like build it for your business, yes, but like don't expect the front end revenue to be like the biggest thing. The thing now is like this conversation wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for social media for me. Because I was on social media, who introduced me to Kent, who introduced me to Boardroom, which is a mastermind group that we're in together, which we joined and we started talking on and communicating with, and we became friends and became connected through that. And now we're sitting here.
100%.
That wouldn't have happened unless I had social media.
And the biggest thing too is social media, it keeps the connection.
Yes.
Right? Because you used to go to a mastermind or something, you meet somebody, but unless you're calling them or emailing or text, but now with social media just makes it so much easier to stay connected.
Well, I tell people all the time, people ask me, what's your business card? I give them my Instagram.
Oh, I hate when people ask me for my business card. It's like my biggest.
Because a business card is going to go into your pot. It's going to be gone. It's going to go in your dashboard. It's going to be garbage. You're not going to keep it. If I tell them, here's my Instagram, now you're going to see me a lot.
Right.
You're going to see me pop up. Whereas a business card, you would have forgotten about me. But now you get to see me at my ass every day, and you know that I'm the 203K guy because I'm constantly posting content about it. There was a guy that was at my meetup last week. He's an attorney. He was at me and a buddy. Me at the gym I went to. They have like a fun fitness competition, like a workout, like kind of CrossFit-y thing, like group fitness thing, and it's fun. We just go, we have fun. The guy that I was on the team with, his neighbor came to watch. We got to talking. He's in real estate too. He does some real estate stuff. He's trying to get on the brokerage side. I was like, oh, follow me on Instagram. I hadn't talked to him in months. I told him about this. I posted about this meetup. He sends me a message. He's like, hey man, it's Barry. I'm going to come out to that meetup. I want to start learning more about the 203K thing. To be fair, I forgot about the guy. Like I didn't, but he didn't forget about me because he's following me on social media. And now when I made a post, now he's like, hey, I want to introduce this to my brokerage and I want to start. If I gave him my business card, he wouldn't have known I was having a meetup. He wouldn't have known that as. So that's the thing too, is like, it's like you need the staying power, you need branding. I always tell people about like, with like the importance of brand. I mean, it's huge in real estate, of course. Like marketing is not there to like every time you make a post, you're going to get a sale. It's like, you just want them, you want to be in front of them so much. I have so many people that they're like, Matt, I've been following you for 3 years. I've been waiting for the time to do it. Now I'm ready to go. I've been following you for 3 years. Like over 3 years, that's someone that came into the mix, right? McDonald's, they make, they show a Big Mac commercial every day or every time you go to the commercial, not because they expect you to go buy a Big Mac every time that you see the commercial. But when your ass is, it's 12 o'clock at night and you're driving home from a long drive and you see those golden arches and you remember that, like you just remember McDonald's and you're like, shit, I could go for a Big Mac right now. You pull into the McDonald's. It's like, it's not meant. This is not meant, that's where people mess up. I see it with agents, with everybody in social. Don't look at it as something where it's just, like if I make a post and don't make a sale from that post, like it's failing. No, you never, because there's also people that like and there's people that lurk. And the people that lurk are usually your best customers. Like my wife doesn't like a single thing, doesn't comment on anything, but I know for a fact she buys shit. So it's like, and she just lurks. And most of your people are lurkers. And that's fine. That's a good thing. You're going for the lurkers. You're not looking for the people that are overly engaged.
Yeah, we've had agents that join my company who've never commented on anything, never liked anything, but when I meet them, they say, I've watched all your content.
Exactly.
I find it super helpful, and I want to be part of your organization. And you would have never have known it. Yeah. So it's just powerful.
You could see how many views now, which is cool on Instagram. You could see how many views you got even on like a picture. So you could see in like, if you have a good size account, you look at 500 views. Imagine talking in front of 500 people. Okay. If you think about what 500 people is, they'll fill up damn near every high school auditorium out there, right? And you just said that. So imagine doing that every single day, multiple times a day, and your stories, and that people are going to remember you. And that's what it's about. Social is very, very powerful if you use it the right way, and you know, and just not get it twisted on what the true value of it is. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome advice.
You got me inspired to go buy some more houses. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah.
Just the passion about it, and definitely got to bring you back to do some education stuff for the agents in our organization, because I think you're right. Not enough agents, and frankly, not enough lenders really know the program enough and how powerful
But they don't know how to
it is.
sell it. They don't know how to sell it.
Right.
You know, they know about it, but again, they look at the roadblocks, and you got to look at the roadblocks, but look at the positives. Look at like what it can do for your seller. Look at what it can do for your buyer.
Well, what I think is great, especially with all the NAR changes and everything, is as agents, you really have to differentiate yourself more now than ever. And we were talking about this a little bit last night. And if you get a cold lead and you're able to provide the value of a renovation loan and how you can build equity, and you're the only agent that's talking about that, and you've talked to 4 or 5 agents, they're going to be drawn to that value.
Right.
So
this guy's got more tools in his tool belt. I want to work with him.
100%.
You know, just that value proposition. That's what our buddy Pete does, right? Yeah. Pete said he would mention it on every single one of his income calls with working with a buyer or a seller. You know, if the seller is worried, I got some issues with the house, listen, we can get them get the buyer into something where like we could still close on the property and the buyer will take care of it, right? It's just offering that value proposition, and again, separating yourself out from that. So that's my big goal for 2025 is just is getting, because we talk about this all the time. I've been a little anti-agent for a while, just because they were usually the biggest ones standing in the way of this program. Mostly, I think the problem with it was always not that the fact that I can understand why. Like they don't have to understand. I understand their reasoning why. If it's standing between them and their commission check and they're working off their commission check, I understand why. What I don't like is the misinformation on it, right? Like when they say like, you don't want to do that. It takes 130 days to go. No, it doesn't. Or you need to use a HUD certified contractor. That's not a real thing. Or like they make all these claims and like say things that are just, it's way too much paperwork. What's the paperwork? You know, they don't know what it is. They just make like these. The problem is not the knowing. The problem is the exacerbating of like this misinformation. That's what I hate about it. That's what if they know about it and just gave it some time to look at it, it's not just throwing it under the bus or telling a buyer that it's not worth it. Right. I mean, you could try to tell me there's no amount of paperwork that wasn't worth me building $200,000 of equity in my first house. Oh, that's more than I made in 3-4 years at that point in my life. I would sit there doing paperwork for 3 days straight if that meant that I could get a $300,000 bonus at the end of the day. So don't tell me it's not paperwork. I always say like it's not worth it. To who? To you? Maybe. Sure, I get that. You can be honest about that. But don't tell me it's not worth it to me and my family and my future. Yeah.
Well, I think it's clear the 203K way is on a mission. It's on a mission to educate agents, brokers, and the publics about how to leverage this to build wealth. You know, and you could tell that you're definitely on a mission to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's something that should be done, because personally it helped change my life. And I'm a seasoned real estate investor and seasoned in real estate, and it really helped me. So I love seeing that. You know, on behalf of Kyle, I appreciate you taking time to come out.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
What's the best place? Where do you want people following you?
At the 203K way. Pretty simple there.
YouTube also?
Yeah, Matt Porcaro on YouTube. It's like if you look up the 203K way, you'll find me everywhere. You know, on everything. Most of my stuff is on Instagram. I'm trying to do more on YouTube. YouTube's a beast. It's definitely a little harder, but yeah, Instagram, YouTube, best place to find me. I also have a Facebook community where you could join and just get all the info. Like I have just a place where people can ask questions about it. The 203K way, just look up the Facebook groups, you can find it. Yeah, I'm always, like I said, when I did this, when I started this, the only thing I told myself was that I just want to provide all the information that I wish I had when I did it myself. That's all. That was my only purpose with it. I was like, I just want people to know, not have the same issue that I had when I told you, like when I first learned about it and I Googled it and there was no information. Now you Google it, you're gonna find me, and you're gonna find my YouTube channel, and you're gonna find my Instagram, And you're going to learn about it. If you're interested in learning about it, the information is 100% there. The support's 100% there. So.
Well, I think you're the clear case study for jab, jab, punch.
Yeah.
Of giving all the value and really capitalize on it. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I know Kyle's going to be watching too.
Excited.
Yeah, so we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate everybody listening. Keep an eye out for next month for our next episode. And thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.